Hello, and welcome to this VMware Cloud on AWS 101 BlackBoard. So back to the very basics, introducing you to the VMware Cloud on AWS platform. First of all, I want to discuss with you the hybrid cloud challenges and complexity. Let me highlight some of the main challenges we are seeing in the field. Operational inconsistencies, as we are talking about two or more completely different infrastructure when we talk about a private and a public cloud being mixed, creating an hybrid cloud solution. Different skill set and tools. When we talk about different platforms, very often we are required to create different skills because we have to face the same concept but approached in different ways. So how you create things, how you manage things is completely different in a private cloud, on premises, or in the public cloud. And the same is real for all the tools you use to manage your infrastructure. Disparate management tools. This is really true because if you think at two completely different infrastructure like vSphere infrastructure on premises, for example, and a native public cloud solution like AWS, for example, you have a completely different set of tools or API that can be used to create objects, to modify objects, to configure your infrastructure and services. And also from a security perspective, if you think about how you manage security, so you create your firewall rules, your NAT configuration, load balancing, security groups, everything is managed differently if you look at traditional on-premises infrastructure and native public cloud. Inconsistent SLAs. What does this mean? You have to provide SLAs to your business. That's obvious. But if you think about the SLAs that the different cloud providers deliver to you, they are not always the same if you are using different solutions and different providers. And for this reason, it's up to you to level up all the SLAs and put your SLA stack on top of this underlying infrastructure to guarantee the SLAs you have to guarantee to your business. Then incompatible machine formats. All the businesses, all our customers, they are looking to transform to a native cloud approach for their application. But usually we start with a lift and shift approach. What we want to do is to migrate as easily as possible our consistent set of virtual machines that together creates our application stacks. We want to simply migrate to the cloud. And this is not so easy because every different public cloud provider has its own virtual machine format. That is because they are using different hypervisors. And so when you talk about lift and shift, that usually is the first approach to the cloud, it's not that easy to migrate your workloads to the cloud. And even more, once you migrate, if you want to come back, you are forced to do a second transformation of your application to being able to move back on premise or simply to migrate to another cloud. For this reason, if we look at our private cloud and at our public cloud solution of choice, and we try to link the infrastructure together, we are obviously facing some issues and some complexity to create a real hybrid architectures and to being able to migrate workloads back and forth easily. So if we have this I would say, infrastructure layer in our private and in our public cloud when we are running, where we are running our virtual machines, and we want to create a bridge, link the two infrastructure together, there is a big question mark on how to achieve this and how to achieve this easily. That's why we are talking about the VMware cloud on AWS, the best of two worlds, the best of the private cloud plus the best of the public cloud. If we look at VMware, VMware is the leading virtualization player in the enterprise market, providing this concept of software-defined data center composed by software-defined compute stack, a software-defined storage stack, and a software-defined network stack, also known as Cloud Foundation. Additionally, VMware is the de facto standard for the enterprise to host their workloads in their private cloud. And there is a broad range of enterprise workloads that are proven to run perfectly on VMware. On the other side, we have AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is the leading public cloud provider that brings to its customers this concept of flexible consumption economics. AWS has the broadest set of services available, and with the AWS global infrastructure, they provide a global scale and reach. So VMware and AWS 3 years ago joined forces to create this solution called VMware Cloud on AWS, which is a cloud foundation stack inside the AWS data center. So what is VMware Cloud on AWS from an high-level architecture perspective? Let me draw the AWS global infrastructure composed of all the regions and availability zones that AWS owns across the globe. Then we have this VMware stack called the VMware Cloud on AWS Software Defined Data Center, or SDDC, which basically is a cloud foundation stack made by vCenter, SXI, NSX, and vSAN installed on bare metal AWS EC2 instances. And this provides a consistent set of infrastructure. So the same vSphere, the same NSX, the same vSAN, the same vCenter that you have on premise, hosted in the AWS public cloud and perfectly integrated in the AWS cloud. What do I mean by this? Is that we have the VMware software installed on AWS bare metal. We have a dedicated software-defined data center infrastructure per customer. So it's a dedicated physical infrastructure inside the AWS data center with a consistent set of vSphere software with native, and by native, I mean with direct connectivity provided by a private link ENI connection between the VMware software-defined data center and the AWS native services such as S3, AC2, RDS, you name it. Fantasy is the limit here, okay? We have this ENI direct connection, and this is a unique feature in VMware Cloud on AWS. Our SDDC can be deployed in a single availability zone or in multi-availability zone in a form of stretched cluster. On the other side, we have the on-premises traditional infrastructure, your data center, where you have vCenter, vSphere, and your storage and networking infrastructure. So the vSphere you used to manage, your storage infrastructure, storage area network attached storage, everything's supported by vSphere. It could be, obviously, vSAN, but it's not a requirement to leverage VMware Cloud on AWS. The same for the network. You have your network infrastructure. It could be NSX, but it's not mandatory to have NSX on-prem to adopt VMware Cloud on AWS. We have this connection between these the vCenters on-prem and in the cloud. So two different vCenters linked by this hybrid linked mode. And this is a way to provide a single pane of glass for both the cloud and the on-premises vSphere infrastructure, leveraging the same vSphere client to have a consistent view of your on-premises and in the cloud infrastructure. Hybrid linked mode is a unique feature in VMware Cloud on AWS. And then we have this second connectivity option, which is HCX, Hybrid Cloud Extension, which is the app mobility and hybridity platform. So what HCX does is basically it creates an abstraction between the compute layer and storage and networking layer on-prem and in the cloud, enabling you to migrate workload easily by vMotion from on-prem to the cloud back and forth, because the infrastructure is consistent. You have the same software, you have the same hypervisor, and so you can move back and forth your VMs between vCenter and vCenter, on premises, in the cloud, or in other different clouds if you have HCX deployed in those additional vSphere-based clouds. From a hybrid connectivity perspective, if you need to keep consistencies in your IP addressing space, or you need to keep your IP address configured in your VMs because you have the IP addresses hard coded in your application code or stuff like that, you can create very easily layer 2 extensions in software, so abstracting the physical network infrastructure. From a management point of view, additional options are that having consistencies in the cloud and on premises from a software perspective, so it's the same as SDDC in the cloud and on premise, you can leverage your tools of choice like VRS automation, VRS operations, the consistent set of APIs, or whatever your infrastructure as code tool you are using, like Terraform, for example, to manage consistently your infrastructure on premises and in the cloud. The VMware Cloud on AWS SDDC and the native AWS services can be configured in the same availability zone. And this way you have direct, high-speed, low-latency access to native AWS services from the SDDC, and from the native AWS services to the SDDC, low latency, high speed, high throughput, and no cost, because we are talking about intra-availability zone traffic. So you can bring your services, your workloads to the cloud and leverage the native AWS services you are already using or you expect to use in the future with direct access with no additional costs. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.